back with the first and goal. Kuhn gets the call. Pyle driving his way in for the touchdown. What a great second effort. Here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like that. Here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like that. I said so. I keep big bills up in my heart on the dirty like blood. So ain't got no twist in my head, but I'm still dreadful.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Week 10 post-game tailgate fantasy recap. We are post-red zone. We are pre-Sunday night football. This is the Fantasy Fullback Dive, brought to you by the good folks at the Roto Street Journal, paving your way to fantasy glory. We're breeding them. We're feeding them. Fantasy Wolves, of course, I'm talking about. I'm your host, Nat the Truth Jones. With me, as always, the Wolf of Roto Street himself. Off to a little bit of a late start today. The Pittsburgh and Cincinnati shitty-ass game went pretty long, but we figured we better get on the air right now. Not sure if that one's done or not, but who cares? Wolf, how you doing?
Doing good in the thick of battles here. I am facing Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins in my college buddies, my Holy Cross Boys League. So went from a 70% chance of winning to now a 70% chance of losing literally in the last second of a game. That's always fun. That feels great right as you're about to go on there. So just tilting slightly over that one. But otherwise, an interesting day. How about you? How's your day gone?
This has been another shitty week of fantasy for me. I don't know if you've been remembering. 2 weeks ago, I lost by 1 point in an absolute shootout. Last week, I won in a 1 point slap fest, like 94 to 93. And I'm currently 80 to 80 right now in like another just – I mean, it's not even fun at all. And he has Jacoby Myers remaining, and I have Allen Robinson remaining.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I should win probably, but it's like I don't feel great about it. I could certainly lose. And even if I win, I know I'm a fraud.
Yeah, that's a fraud win. But, hey, wins are wins.
Well, I need them. There's one bye in my league. Right now, I'm the number 1 seed, and I would get that bye, and that's obviously crucial.
Huge.
But like the 2 and 3 and 4 teams right now just must hate me because they're all probably objectively better than I.
Hey, fantasy defense, real thing. Fantasy defense is very, very important. And those of you tuned in, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up button, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, help us get out to more people as we recap the action. We'll go over our studs, our duds, the waiver wire you need to look at, some early injuries. We might miss a thing or two, so that's why we love having the mailbag open. Let us know who your stud of the week was, your duds, but also any waiver wire guys you're looking for, people we might miss, injuries if we don't hit them. Let us know as we get ready for a big Pats game, a big chance for them to maybe show they have a spine. Probably not, but we will find out shortly.
Yeah, I think the chances of them showing they have a spine are unlikely. Not impossible, but unlikely. Real quick, let's just roll down some key Sunday night actives and inactives to get that out of the way, since I know some people might be having to make some last-minute changes. Mark Ingram is active for the Ravens, so we'll muddle that backfield up just a little more than
there
usual.
was a report too, though, that Dobbins might get unleashed. Jason LaConforma saying this is his chance to kind of separate himself.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We've heard that before, right?
Of course, not necessarily about Dobbins, but we've heard Jason LaConforma pump somebody and be very wrong before. So
well, anyway.
But it's a good enough reason to at least keep him stashed, if not even potentially starting. I wouldn't trust Edwards or Mark Ingram. Dobbins, the only running back for the Ravens I would be looking at tonight.
Agreed. Damian Harris for the Pats is also going to be active for Week 10 against the Ravens. He didn't practice much this week, but he is going to play with a questionable tag. Of course, with the Belichick and any of these guys, you have no idea what that means. N'Keal Harry, he had been in concussion protocol. He is active for Week 10 against the Ravens, if that's going to matter. But anyway, those are your key. I agree. I don't think it will either. Those are your key actives / inactives. I guess actually they're all actives. So do with that what you will.
Yeah, we're gonna Sony Michel as well. Sony Michel is staying on the IR, so Harris
he's on
have the big back role for however long the big back matters. Who knows if we'll get down early?
Or they might try to ride Rex Burkhead.
It could be that Burkhead's probably going to vulture. I'm facing Harris, so pray Burkhead has the big game tonight.
Speaking of vulturing, I had a really horrible experience. I talked about how terrible my team was, but on Thursday I had Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry.
Oh yeah,
the Titans get the ball on the 1 yard line. I think, well, I'm going to score a point here. Either Henry's going to run it in, Tannehill's going to run it in, or anybody that Tannehill passes to, I'm going to get 6 points.
That's double, dude.
And then they give the side handoff to Jonnu Smith.
Yeah,
I don't even know if I'd call that a vulture. That's more just like a kick in the crotch.
Yeah, one to both nuts, like double.
Right. Kick me like in the right side of the crotch, and then as I doubled over, kick me in the left side of the crotch, just to make sure they made their point. Anyway, all right, we're going to get into the studs. We don't have banners for a lot of these. We'll probably have one for the winner, but I got 7 potential studs. This was a weird week, wouldn't you agree, as far as studs? Usually we've had 3 or 4 just guys, maybe more even sometimes, that have just had such huge games, eggplant. I'm not sure how many of these guys even deserve the eggplant. But these are the best of the bunch. These guys all had very good to excellent games, but not up to the standards of our last few weeks. Number 1, DeAndre Swift. He had 81 yards on the ground, 5 catches for 68 and a score, and got the lion's share, well, no pun intended, of the carries for the Lions. Rojo, CJ's man. CJ sent a group text to us, said, "Sit on my face, Rojo." And that was, of course, after the 98-yard touchdown run. Ended up with a 192-yard rushing day and a touchdown. Again, 98 of it came on one play. Otherwise, it would have been a pretty pedestrian 94 yards, no scores. But, I mean, that's part of the game. He put 15, 16 points up on that play. $192 and a score. That's a pretty good stat line. Tom Brady, the ageless one, except last week he seemed like the aged one. 341 yards, 4 total touchdowns. He had a great game. Deontay Johnson, 6 for 116 and a score. He started fast, finished slow. I would say he's probably not going to be one of the studs or the stud of the week. T. Higgins, kind of similar, 7 for $115 and a score. That was maybe more impressive because the Bengals pretty much did absolutely nothing. So putting up a stat line like that was impressive. Josh Jacobs, I hate even talking about him in this group, 112 yards on the ground, 4 catches for 24 yards. And 2 touchdowns, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 4 catches for $149 and a touchdown. Like I said, not as star-studded and not as impressive of a group as we've had in the last few weeks. Who would you lean towards, and is there anybody that you kind of want to accent here?
It's tricky because, I mean, Brady is the sheer points amount. Like he scored the most points of any player this week, and he sustained a bunch of other players in the Godwin, Evans, and Antonio all put up meaningful stat lines, and Gronk
also. I mean,
exactly.
There's 4 receivers and a running back and him, 6 guys. And that Tampa Bay offense was number 1 in my up list. It's rare that you can have 6 guys eating on offense.
And because of that, that's why I call Tom Brady the winner of the week. He himself put up the most points of anybody, but he also sustained 4 viable options on a team where I own Brady and Godwin and Evans. It was nice to see all these guys sustained. Antonio Brown in another league. It just all ships rose quite highly with Tom Brady today. I wanted to call the winner DeAndre Swift, and we can call him the runner-up just because of the sheer amount he's going to rise on the next big board. I mean, 71% of the snaps after never topping 42%, I think was his season high, seeing 16 of the 20 carries, 5 targets, and just racking up 142 total yards in the score is just a monstrous day. And this just moving forward, we talked about him on our Wednesday show as one of the ultimate buy lows, one of the best schedules moving forward. We couldn't promise he'd get the work, but he did get the work. And now if he's going to get work like this the rest of the year with that schedule he has, this was one of the harder games he had left on his schedule. He just put up 25-something fantasy points. I love DeAndre Swift. As a season long, the winner in terms of biggest riser of the week is definitely DeAndre Swift. But just in terms of stud of the week, it would be Tom Brady, if that makes any sense.
Tough to argue with that. Although I will say that if we had maybe 10 more minutes, Kyler Murray might have gotten in the discussion as well up there with Tom. Right. I mean, that was kind of late to the table, but similar to Brady, I still think maybe Brady gets the edge because of the overall Tampa Bay offensive just carrying the load. That's pretty impressive. We'll talk about that later if we got time. Absolutely. All right, let's go to duds. Travis Fulgham, who I was playing against. This is why I can score 80 points and still be in a game, because I'm going against a guy that had Travis Fulgham in his starting lineup and Deontay Johnson on his bench. So Travis Fulgham, 1 of 5 targets for 8 yards in the Eagles' Week 10 loss to the Giants. I mean, are the Eagles – how bad are the Eagles?
Garbage.
And I'm going to say that about a couple teams today, but what a steaming pile of shit like the one above my head. I don't know if I prefer the eggplant or the shit above my head, but the Eagles. Yeah, I like the eggplant. It's true. I do like some eggplant.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, the Eagles are so bad. Right? I mean, what are we supposed to do with this? Travis Fulgham, who was you were even saying last week, and I didn't disagree with you. Guy's he's a legit number 1 receiver, not on a fantasy team, but on an NFL team. and he's a legit starter, and he just looked like total horse shit.
Yeah.
Jalen Reagor, I think, had maybe 6 fantasy points on the bench. Dallas Goedert. And, and this is a real testament, by the way, to how bad tight ends are. We've been talking about this. Goddard had like 1 point at the beginning of the second half, ended with 7 fantasy points, and I felt like I hit the lottery. Like I was like, oh, man, 3 catches for 40. Wow, that's a solid game from Goddard because that's how shitty the position is at this point.
It's awful. And just like on the back of all that is who's the man sustaining all these ships? Carson Wentz at 8-point fantasy day in most scoring settings, 208 yards, no touchdowns, and 4 rushing yards. Just a pathetic day from Carson Wentz. So hopefully you think there's better days ahead, but it's not like the Giants have this elite defensive front. So that was definitely concerning for Fulgham and for really all ships around Carson Wentz, and the water himself, Wentz, was just disgusting. Absolute toilet water.
My buddy Johnny Goodtimes is from Philadelphia and is, obviously a huge sports fan, big fan of our site and the show and everything. And he texted me maybe an hour ago, Carson Wentz is not an NFL starting quarterback.
No, not at all. I think worse than him, though. My dud of the week might be Russell Wilson. What did he finish with? 248 yards and 2 interceptions?
Yes. And he had, I want to say he maybe had 60 yards rushing, which he always does to like make it so his floor is like 10 and not 3. Right. But yeah, I mean, so he's not worse than Wentz globally. But as far as what you're expecting from this guy and what he delivered today, that was, I would say, a worse showing. I would say, by the way, the Eagles losing that game going to 3-5-1 are still they're in sole possession of first place in the NFC East, just to be clear. Right. And Wilson, the 248, 2 picks. I can't remember the last time we saw a game like that from Russell Wilson. And DK Metcalf, the unguardable DK Metcalf, 2 catches for 28 yards. Oh, what a shithole game for this guy. And again, I have DK Metcalf. That would explain why I have 80 points. If you had said to me, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf are going to combine for like 9 fantasy points, I would have said you're lying. Right. But here we are.
It goes to show Jalen Ramsey. I mean, one of the best in the league. If he can take out DK Metcalf, he can take out anybody. And this isn't the first time we've seen an elite number 1 receiver not like underwhelm and then also just get completely erased like this. This was scary to see. You thought he was unguardable. You thought Russell Wilson couldn't really be putting on a dud list ever. And here we are, relative to expectations. Probably my favorite for the dud of the week.
I agree. I also want to point out, and I hate piling on DK because he's literally probably one of my 2 favorite football players. But I recall when they played the Cardinals also, when I think Patrick Peterson was on him. Mm-hmm. He disappeared in that game too. And so there is a little bit of a pattern of DK being absolutely unguardable against the average to below average guys and just murdering you, and maybe the absolute elite guys struggling with, which is disappointing to see because I do have a lot of faith in him. So I hope that ends up not being true. Last on the dud list, and I don't think this guy can compete with the Wilson DK duo, Duke Johnson. The stat line you have written by Duke Johnson just says, ew.
I think it was 54 yards total, which again is like okay, but relative to everybody, he's coming in, he's going to get 20 touches, he's going to play 80% of the snaps. I think he was in on like 80% of the snaps.
Oh, sure. He was on the field.
Didn't do anything. He was on the field. That was a huge disappointment. I kind of want to nominate for the dud of the week. This isn't right because Nick Chubb had 18 fantasy points, but my God, he should have had 24. How does he do that? How does he step out at the end like that? I get it's like okay for your team, but you're up by 3 scores at that point. Just get the fucking touchdown.
I would love. So he can't be the dud of the week. And also, I just want to say, I feel like in the RSJ group text, I feel like Jimmy might have said something this week about, Duke Johnson's going to get all this work. And I wanted to say something really, I might not have been Jimmy. So if it wasn't, I'm sorry, but I wanted to say something really snarky back. Then I was like, no, I'm going to get burned. Anyway, Nick Chubb, I would have loved to have had a real-time video reaction of you during that final run. Because I'll bet you were so happy and then so angry. Yep. And, for those of you that don't know, Nick Chubb had a breakaway near the end of the game. He was going to score his 2nd touchdown. The guy had a good stat line, very good stat line, stepped out of bounds or kneeled, I should say, to basically ice the game instead of taking, getting 8 more points for the Wolf or whatever. Would have been really nice. So that's why he's talking about him as dud of the week. He's not dud of the week, but he's the guy that you might want to hit the most if you saw him on the street, if he wouldn't absolutely kick your ass. So who's your dud of the week? Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, both of them?
relative to expectations, Russell Wilson. But the only other one, I know we've mentioned a couple Thursday night guys at this point. Jonathan Taylor, I mean, 7 carries, 12 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, does it get more frightening than that as you watch Nyheim Hines go off for 2 scores and over 100?
I mean, Wilkins had an absolutely terrible game too.
And still outscored Jonathan Taylor. It's just a joke.
Maybe by a little, yeah.
Of a backfield. So, yeah, I think Jonathan Taylor, in all honesty, has to be the dud of the week. But Russell Wilson and DK, relative to expectations, that was just a clear-cut, just complete. So, yeah, I'm going to go winner Seahawks pass game just because.
All right. That's fair. And the Seahawks seem to be kind of falling apart also, just in general. They've ever since they blew that game to the Cardinals that they had no business blowing, they have not looked right.
Right. Exactly.
All right, let's go to up. I touched on this before. For my 3 up, 3 down, it's actually going to be more than 3 up. We're going to go by them pretty fast. Tampa Bay offense. There were a lot of mouths to feed in this offense. And here's the PPR points, how it broke down in basic ESPN PPR scoring. Brady put up 32. Rojo put up 26, Evans 19, Godwin 15, Gronk and AB both 13. Coming out of one offense, that is pretty amazing. So that's easy to see why they're on the up list. Also on the up list, Marvin Jones. There was a Marvin Jones sighting, 8 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown. What? DJ Moore, 4 for 96 and a touchdown. I don't even really want to get into this because clearly we don't know anything at all about the Panthers passing game. We have been a week late on this consistently every single week. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've been late on this all the time. Number 4 on the list, the aforementioned Nick Chubb. We talked about him before. T. Higgins also 6 for $102 and a touchdown. Obviously, he keeps trending up. He really does. Antonio Gibson, 45 yards, 2 scores. And McKissick, they're on the field together. They're coexisting. So those are the guys, you'd have to say are trending up like serious. Like I said, I'm not touching DJ Moore. I don't know what to make of those Panthers guys. We've been wrong every single time. So sorry if you listen to us on those because we clearly have no fucking idea what we're talking about.
I don't think anybody does. And that's kind of the point of the offense. That's what Joe Brady does. That's why DJ Moore has been an awful 3rd-round pick. Even though he had a monster game, if you used him, great job. But he seems like one of those guys that just has been so bad that you finally bench him and then he goes off. And I don't know if we ever came up with a name for what that would be for the glossary. But that to me is what DJ Moore is like, you don't trust him. You don't trust him. You put him in and or you bench him and or you trust, then you bench and he goes off. Whereas Curtis Samuel's the opposite of him. You don't trust. You finally do. You put him in, it gets you fucking 25 yards.
Right.
They're the opposites. And you never know what it's going to be. They're going to earn your trust just so you can put him in. They can fuck it up. It's a great offense in that sense because you can never know what's coming. But yeah, it's an absolute quagmire for fantasy purposes. I do want to talk about that Washington backfield, though. I love the fact that it can coexist like this. McKissick in for 70% of the snaps, but Gibson in for 40. They're on the field at the same time. Gibson getting all the touchdowns. Barber's not a thing at all, so that's nice. So we kind of knew that for the last few weeks, but good to know. McKissick, though, even with Gibson putting up over 20 fantasy points, had 17 of his own because he had 15 targets.
Wow.
A week after getting 14. He also pounded in a touchdown. I mean, what more can you ask for from that guy? He's going to probably go down as one of the better waiver wire pickups of the year, J.D. McKissick, which is insane. I don't think that's going to change. I think we're going to get plenty of these two both becoming a backfield, kind of like the Chubb and Browns game where Chubb had 18 fantasy points. Hunt also had 104, 3 catches and 128. Like that, it's like the Saints of old where there's 2 top 5 running backs. Some backfield just work better with tandems, and this is one where between the Browns, between Washington, it seems to just work out okay. I didn't think enough offense could come from Washington, but it sure is.
It's worth pointing out when we talk about Washington also, not to jerk this guy off because the announcers certainly do it. Alex Smith started his first game in 2 years and threw for 390 yards. Now, I watched him. I didn't think he looked too good, to be honest with you. Right. But still, I mean, the fact that he even started and completed and at least stat-wise put up some decent numbers, that's worth noting. I mean, it's not like the bar has been high for Washington quarterbacks. It's probably about as good as anybody's looked all year.
There's nobody we want to root for more, too. I mean, His story, it just doesn't get any better. Obviously, it doesn't get any worse than what it was last year, but it's great to see him, absolutely.
Definitely. Rounding out the ups, I missed these. Brandon Ayuk, 7 for 75 and a touchdown. Kenyon Drake, speaking of 2 running backs in a backfield, Edmonds seemed like he was getting the lion's share for a while, but then, Drake ended up with close to 90, 100 yards, something like that. And we talked about Nyheim Hines, who scored twice on Thursday and had 70 yards. Just terrible, convoluted backfield in Indianapolis. Those are our ups for the week.
Exactly.
Right. Downs.
I got to mention, too, as well. I do want to mention for the up, one person we haven't chatted about that. He's now going to be in line to start 3 games is Wayne Gallman with Devonta Freeman.
Yeah, he looked good.
He looked really good. I mean, it wasn't the most efficient. 18 carries, 53. The yards per clip aren't amazing, but 2 scores. He's now scored 5 touchdowns in his last 4 games. He hasn't been under 13 fantasy points in PPR leagues. Coming off his best game of the year, Wayne Gallman seems to me he's locked in this every week type of status for Wayne Gallman. Yeah,
I agree. And as far as things to get excited about for the Giants, and there aren't very many, I mean, that's one of them. So if you got Gallman, I'd say he's a must start unless you got just amazing running back depth.
Exactly.
Right, let's go to the down list. First thing I want to say is down, literally anybody associated or affiliated with the Houston Texans franchise. That is all the way from the owner to the starting quarterback to the peanut vendors to the people that park your car, take your tickets, work the concession stands. Anybody associated with that franchise is officially a down. What a shitty football team. They lost 10-7 to the Browns. I think the first half of that game might have been the worst half of football I've ever seen in my life. It was 3-0 Browns with about 4 minutes to go in the game, or in the half. I don't know if you saw this. There's like 4 minutes to go in the half. It's 3-0 Browns. The Texans have the ball. They line up for a 48-yard field goal, okay, and decide to pooch punt it instead.
Yep, I saw that play, yeah.
I mean, what the fuck are you doing? I get it. It was windy, but, like, it's 3-0. It's almost halftime. Like, we're going to pin them back in their own end. What? So, you just said you're not going to kick a field goal, so what are you doing? Right. I don't know. I mean, Romeo Crennel is a really, really terrible coach. And I know we just lost a really terrible coach with the Texans, but they should be embarrassed. I mean, they are just terrible, right?
Absolutely. I will say, though, the other thing for down and like just a trend we've seen now twice in these Cleveland games, weather can really just ruin a complete game. The winds were up to 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and it destroyed the Browns and Raiders just a couple weeks ago. We warned people that could really well happen on our pregame tailgate. This was worse than I expected. I thought maybe Watson would cut the wind a bit. But no, Baker has no arm to cut through that wind, and certainly nobody else seemed to. Watson had no answer for it as well. So it's just something to note. Like, we got to take weather serious, especially when the quarterbacks don't have the arm to really push it through. Like Rodgers cut through it. He's got the arm to do it. Some guys just simply don't, and neither Mayfield or Watson could get it through. It was awful. That was atrocious. But weather has to be our factor in pregame tailgates for sure.
Continuing down the down list, Evan Ingram, 2 catches for 15 yards. We just got through last week talking about, man, tight end sucks so bad. This guy could be the second or third best guy. Well, no, he sucks. 2 catches for 15 yards. Easiest matchup,
too. Easiest matchup.
I mean, it was pretty discouraging. Going down the list more, AJ Green, and I have next to him, could a guy go down anymore? That's why I'm not sure he necessarily belongs on the down list, because it's like he's in the bottom of the dumpster already.
Right.
I think he had 0 catches. So anyway.
I guess so. Did he even have a target? That's, I guess, the worst he could do.
He might have been targeted. I don't know.
Dash.
All right, number 4, Jerick McKinnon. I'm not sure there could be a worse running back in the NFL. Or if this guy were trying to be a bad running back, I'm not sure he could pull it off. At one point, at the very beginning of the game, I just saw his stat line. He had 14 yards. I was like, oh, okay. Like he's running the ball. He's getting the ball. I hadn't been following game flow or anything. I thought, I've made 1 or 2 carries, maybe 3. He's got 14 yards. No, and then I went to the box score. He had 9 carries already for 14 yards. His stat line, he ended up with 18 for 33. He also, on a 4th and 1, for some reason, this is already when he was like 11 for 16 or something. They handed it off to him on a 4th and 1 and just tried to plow him through the pile. He got stuffed, of course, because of course he would get stuffed. He's like a little right. And so anyway, he was awful. He got me 5 fantasy points, which in my game I needed because my team sucks so bad. But here's my prediction for you. As long as that guy plays football, he's never going to get 18 carries in a game again.
He doesn't deserve him ever again.
No, I'm just saying, I don't think he'll ever get 18 carries again. I think that we will look back on this and say that was the most carries Jerick McKinnon ever got in a football game.
I think I totally agree. Why wouldn't he? And it's, I guess, a sneaky up for Mostert, who will be back after the bye week in all likelihood. Like, nobody has come in here and had any type of consistency. So Mostert, walk right back into your starting role because McKinnon, Hasty, nobody showed a fucking pulse.
Leonard Fournette, hideous backfield situation. He goes down, of course.
1 week it's Rojo, 1 week it's Fournette. Like, right. Even though Rojo looks great today, honestly, I don't want any part of either of them. If you still have a trade deadline, sell Rojo as fast as you can because it's just going to be back and forth seesawing.
TJ Hawkinson of the shitty tight ends of the Evan Ingram ilk, 2 of 4 targets for 13 yards. Very similar stat line to Ingram. Maybe limited by the toe, who knows? But it's pretty much par for the course for these tight ends. Yeah. Curtis Samuel.
He looked like he was hampered too. That's the part I want to put on here. Like he was not the same Hawkinson running for free. Like he was definitely just. Everyone was glued to him. He couldn't break tackles. Ugly performance. Very ugly.
We talked about Curtis Samuel, how we trust him, and then he sucks. Austin Hooper, 1 of 2 for 11 yards. Again, we talked about the bad weather in Cleveland, so we maybe don't dump on him too much. Mike Thomas, 2 catches, 27 yards. Man, you were right about him. You talked about him, at least so far. We'll see what happens. But so that's the down list. Real quick. Right. So we can get into the mailbag. Let me just run down the waiver wire real fast, guys. That are potential.
I got a few names. I'll rip the waiver wire real fast.
Go ahead.
Salvin Ahmed, the dominant workload. I want to look at the final snap count. I didn't get that number, but ultimately, he finished with 85 yards, like 18 carries,
and
the touchdown, looking real smooth while doing it, and only owned in 5% of Yahoo leagues right now. It looks to me, 21 carries. Wow, never mind. That much more. So he was the clear guy. Kind of just like Myles Gaskin. Nothing overly impressive, but churned, fell forward, looked good. He'd be my number 1 waiver wire target for
no question
anybody out there in leagues. Michael Pittman, though, would be number 2. He's owned, I think, right around 20%. We said it on my Thursday broadcast. I said, if you got bench trash, beat the rush. Only 9% owned. Wow. 7 catches on 8 targets, 101 yards. Just playing to that big body, playing on over 87% of the snaps in back-to-back weeks. Also ran the ball for 21. So creative usage. I think, we were talking about Reagor being that next big rookie to step in and this promising class. It might be Pittman. He's his big body, that next Vincent Jackson style comparisons. He looked real good.
Vincent Jackson. Love that reference. Of course I do. Of course I
remember, he was a monster. I love that.
He had his moments.
Absolutely. Today, Kalen Ballage, there was the big question, who's it going to be this week? Is it going to be Kelly? Is it going to be Pope? Is it going to be Ballage? How can we ever find anybody? Well, he sees Ballage, 18 carries, 68 yards. Pretty gross. But also got some work as a receiver. 5 catches, 34 yards, 12 points. He's now gone 15 and then 12 in back-to-back weeks. It looks like Eckler is going to be back soon, but you might get a start against the Jets and maybe even Buffalo, another horrible run. We just saw Kenyon Drake go for over 100 yards on them, and Drake doesn't run for 100 yards against anybody this year.
Edmonds had another 60. So
exactly, that awful Buffalo run D, awful Jets run D. So Ballage has a nice schedule for whenever Eckler's for however long he's sidelined for. Ballage is another great name. It's actually a pretty juicy waiver wire. Now more and more I think about it because as we haven't covered all the injuries yet, but Jameis Winston steps in for Drew Brees. Now he didn't do a whole lot with his time, 63 yards. He didn't have to, though. 6 for 10. They were already up big. They didn't have to sling it, but we know Jameis Winston can hum it all over the yard. The weapons there are fantastic. You couldn't ask for a better offensive system. We don't know yet what Drew Brees' injury is, but it kept him out the entire second half. He looked upset, visibly upset on the waiver wire. And then the last 2 names I have, and you can let me know if I forgot anybody, Nat. I got Josh Reynolds going 10 targets. I think a team high 10 targets. Nonetheless, 8 catches, 94 yards, using that big frame, looking pretty juicy after the catch. A great day from Josh Reynolds. He also looks like the greasiest human being I've ever seen in his picture. I don't know how they decided on that as his headshot. So shout out to you, Josh Reynolds, for giving literally 0 shits in your picture. And last but not least, Devontae Booker. Might have been revenge game, just like scripting it because they were already up so big, but 81 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground behind Josh Jacobs. Just an absolute steamrolling of the previously vaunted run D of the Broncos. Good to know that was just like a weird string of matchups. But all interesting names. Wolfpack, let us know if there's other guys you're like, oh, this guy's on my waiver wire, or did we miss somebody? I think Dwelly had a couple nice catches for the Niners at tight end, but also potentially
don't pick up any tight ends. Forget
Let's chat the injuries because that could inform a few more here.
All right. Well, Breeze, of course, we don't know the extent of it, but it resulted in Jameis playing the whole second half. Teddy Bridgewater, Mike Davis, doesn't really matter. I'm assuming McCaffrey will be back, but some people, he had been dropped, got picked up, thought he would do something. He didn't really do anything, and now he seems to be hurt again. Traquan Smith and Andrew Whitworth. Also, Travis Homer. I mean, in that Seattle just nightmare running back situation, he's doubtful to return Week 10 against the Rams. He didn't return. Probably doesn't matter. But those are our injuries.
Those are our injuries. Let us know if we missed any Wolfpack. We did want to give you at least a handful of minutes of the mailbag. I know we've got 36 questions here.
Hit them. Let's go.
Let's get to the mailbag. Let's hit them all. Again, thumbs up. So greatly appreciated as we chat here.
No, Arizona not kicking the extra point to cover 2.5. Awful. Man, that's brutal. I'm sorry. Chubb going down instead of scoring to not cover 3.5. Awful. Oh, dude.
Tough betting day for Mr. No.
You have our sympathy,
just painful.
Bud. Craig Sarno, sup boys? Week 10 can kick the fattest part of my ass. I'm glad it's not just me, dude.
It has been a shitty ass fucking week, dude. Some really weird. We couldn't even call it a stud clearly because of how shitty this week was.
Quint Harmon, what a shit show from my team. Wow. Yeah, man. Well, if you've been listening, we're in the same boat, bud. So I feel you.
I think a lot of comments, this week.
Carl Tuneberg, need about 24 points from Baltimore defense tonight. It saddens me as a Patriots fan to feel like it's possible. 24 is a lot. It's not impossible. I'm sorry you're in that situation. That sucks.
That's a tough one. And then you have to root against your own team. But yeah, fantasy sometimes gets the priority.
Gerald Robinson, my God, I love Deontay Johnson. I'll bet you loved him more in the first half, but still, great game relative to what's been going on.
I got a lot of Deontay questions this morning and almost always went Deontay. He's just a stud. 10 targets every time he's out there. So that was one. I definitely had my bad calls this week, but Deontay was a gem this week.
Schuster had a game too. And I feel like Claypool
had a score
maybe not. He scored though.
Big Ben should have been in consideration for start of the week by the end of that game. We were they were in the middle of the game before we got there. So
Mitch Chavez says unbelievable. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Craig Irvo, I'm up 10 in standard league facing Marquise Brown. What are my chances? I think your chances are pretty good, dude.
Yeah,
Marquise Brown hasn't done anything. I mean, he's touchdown dependent. He scores a touchdown, you're in trouble. And
this will be the week, of course. The 1 week you need him to avoid the end zone, he's going to come for you. So I think if I don't know what Gilmore's status is tonight, but either way, I'd see Marquise being our defense deep at least once.
Craig Sarno, I need about 25 from Hollywood tonight. Oh man, all these Hollywood dependent guys.
That's not good.
I got Hollywood on my bench.
He can do it. Guys. He can boom. He can boom.
I benched Hollywood this week, but I mean my team scored 80 points, so possibly I shouldn't have. Noah Pringle started Chark over Higgins. This is the last time I sit Higgins. You should not sit Higgins anymore. I've come around. It's taken me a while. I got a nice fat 0 from Jared Cook. Tight end is so shitty, Noah. There's nothing you could do about it. I would have loved to have had Jared Cook, or so I would have thought. I had Goddard. He just was terrible. So.
Yeah, I recommended Goddard. I got so many Goddard questions, and I was like, no, he's my number 6. I have him above all but 5 guys, and I ended up being right, even though he scored 5 points.
Yeah, no, he had 7 in my league, and that's why I started him. D-Hop from Mitch. Yeah, D-Hop.
Yeah, awesome. Unbelievable, Mitch. Unreal.
Marco Escobar, as long as I live on this earth, I will never start Drew Lock. Made the Raiders look like the 85 Bears. I respect
Seriously. That. No more Drew Lock ever again. Cut that motherfucker right now.
To be fair, I never believed in Drew Lock. Justin Martin, question for you guys. Do I pull Allen Robinson and put in Cordell Patterson out of my running back spot and then put in Damian Harris? I don't know how serious Robinson's injury is. Is Robinson hurt? Fuck.
No, he's questionable, but honestly, he's been questionable entering games. He ends up playing against that Viking secondary.
Me, Justin Martin.
Against that Viking secondary, I might put in Harris above Patterson anyways, yes. If it's not too late, it might be too late, and I apologize if so, but I'd put that in just so you have the option of going Patterson in case something does happen with Robinson. I'd rather have Harrison than Patterson. So I would do that. Then you have a backup plan should Robinson miss the game. I don't think he will, though. I think you're in good shape.
He had better not be.
He won't.
Mitch Chavez, Melvin Gordon hurt, had Gallman on the
bench. That's painful. 2 touchdowns.
Kyle Tunenberg, duds, Fulgham, we got him. AJ Brown, he went Thursday, or else we probably would have said him.
We should have said him.
Duke, we mentioned him. McKinnon, we mentioned it. Yeah, we got them all. McKinnon, Hawkinson, we're with you. Mike Clay, how'd you do with Herbert and Chubb? Knee ain't slowing him down any. How'd you do?
Yeah, I'm up 120 to 89. I'm facing Damian Harris and Adam Thielen, so I feel decent. Not over by any means, but I'm in good shape. The only thing is Big Ben was my quarterback instead of Herbert, and Big Ben had 30. And so it would have been Big Ben and Edmonds I would have got the same points as Chubb and Herbert. So I technically didn't have to do the deal. I just also now don't have the buy from C-Mac. I feel pretty good about it. Chubb looked really good.
Don't you like pulling for Herbert and Chubb more than Ben and Edmonds?
Kind of. Oh, yeah. But it would have been Christian McCaffrey, too, is the other guy. Like, that's the thing. Is I would have had McCaffrey come next week. I think there's still some risk with him, so I don't mind it. Kyle
Tuneberg studs, Herbert and Ayuk. I don't necessarily think that they should be at they were good this
Ayuk
week. There were
good.
guys that were better.
Yeah. They were good, but definitely guys that were better at their positions.
Now, did you see, Kyle, when Mike Williams was alone in the end zone, wide open? I'm talking nobody within 5 yards away from him, and Herbert sailed it like miles over his head. That was awful. Williams, 1 catch for 10 yards, by the way. Mike Clay, I ran with Claypool and Higgins. Right. Good job.
Yeah, you asked that one on the show. That was the wreck. I'm glad you went with it. Even though Ayuk wouldn't have been a bad alternative, he also had a great game too. So you're roses either way, Mike Clay. Good job. Sign of a good team.
Sarah Riley, FML, Thomas, Fant, Robbie Anderson, Robert Woods, all terrible. Yeah, I can't argue with you.
That is just
I'm sorry, Sarah.
All duds.
Seamus J. Timberlake, so depressed. As you can tell by his picture, he's depressed. He's upset. You can tell.
Yeah. That glowing face.
Saddest guy you've ever seen. Nice blonde hair, by the way.
Yeah, great move for the Seamus.
You pull it off well. Craig Sarno, Hartley Dykes better than N'Keal Harry. Sure.
Just about, yes.
Seamus says, Metcalf, Landry, Hawk all suck as much as my old brunette hair. I mean, you pulled off brunette pretty well. I admit you look a lot more radiant now, Seamus. But yeah, those guys all suck this week. The good news is it spread out across everybody. So, I mean, I was terrible, but the guy I was playing was terrible too. Hopefully that happened for you as well. Mike Clay, Duke, double shit emoji. Really just the whole Texans offense. Yeah, dude, we said that they were the biggest embarrassment of the week. Don't know if we can blame it on Duke.
And they've been playing well, so part of me is like, it's the weather. Give them a free pass. But that was just so atrocious.
Come on, man.
It was terrible. Atrocious.
Terrible. Scott Brooks, my dick is still fucking hard from the Hail Mary. Yeah, baby. At least somebody's happy about something.
Yep. Again, as I said, that was the ultimate kick to the nuts for me because I was facing not only Hopkins but also Kyler. Went from a 70-something% favorite to a 75% chance to lose now.
Is that the same league you had Chubb step out of bounds?
No, that was a different.
That would have been such a
two of my 3 leagues.
That would have been like someone just twisting your nutsack.
Sit
on my face, Rojo, awkward. Nah, not for the RSJ.
Far for the course.
That's pretty typical. Jameis J. Timberlake, on a positive note, the league I was in last at some point I seem to be rallying in. Could perhaps end up in 7th after today with a win. Shrug emoji. Good for you, man. Way to stay positive.
Once you squeak in, anything can fucking happen in the playoffs. That's what's the best. Anything can happen.
Tim Gray, same here. You'd think I took Viagra. All right. Craig Sarno, if it didn't come from CJ, I would question it, but with him, I kind of expect it. Yeah.
For which one? Oh, the CJ.
Rojo's sitting on his face.
Yes. That sounds about right. Exactly.
Cozy Solo, hey guys, who do you think I should start, Allen Robinson or Justin Jefferson? Please answer. I mean, I would have said Robinson until somebody started talking about him being hurt.
Yeah, I'm still going Robinson as long as he's in. That Viking secondary is atrocious. Robinson's a target hog. I don't think the he's that hurt. So no, I'm going Robinson.
Jack Mihalik. Wolfie, let's go. Do I play Tua or Carson going forward? Love your work, bro. Keep on keeping on.
I appreciate that, Jack. I appreciate you tuning in often. Great to
Tua.
I honestly, Tua seems like a better option. Carson Wentz does have a joke of a schedule, so I wouldn't say release him quite yet. His weapons are all coming together. I would hold and see what happens. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd easiest of all quarterback schedules. But I would keep them all. I wouldn't cut either guy just in case because Tua's schedule is not horrible either.
I'm not saying cut Carson necessarily, but he looks really bad, man.
Yeah.
He looks really, really bad. It would be hard for me to start him against anybody. Mike Keenan, Harris or Burkhead, help.
I think we already missed that one because the game, I think, has kicked off. But if not, I would have said Harris. So let's see what happens. I think that the better, clearer lock for early down carries, although Burkhead seems to vulture everything anyways. It was a crapshoot. I would have recommended Harris. I don't know. Let us know who you went, Mike. Sorry we didn't get there. Again, we try to get through the recaps of as fast as we can while also giving the most important information. It's a tricky balance, but we only have 30 minutes, So if you
Blame
have
the Steelers and the Bengals, it's the Steelers-Bengals game that cost you that question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I would say again, too, if you have a sit start related to Sunday night, guys, just try to make sure you get here as fast as you can. We go through them as quickly as we can, but also trying to give good information. So we apologize, Mike. We missed that. If you can try to show up right at like 7:30. I mean, you were here early. He's right here at 8, but it is what it is, you know.
Brody Roberts, Wilson screwed me. Good call on not trading Chubb.
Yes, sir. Glad you held strong. He looks like a beast.
Daniel Howland. Dude, you trust DK going against Arizona next week? Oh, I brought that up earlier. A team he struggles with going back to last year. So I'll answer first, and then you tell me what you think. I don't really trust him, but there's no way I'm benching him.
I think he'll be fine. And especially after a dud, he's going to be fired up. They're going to script him in more. Like, he's a man. He is an absolute monster. There's no way he goes back-to-back duds this year. He hadn't had under 17 only one other time this season. Like, I'm right back.
Pretty sure that was against Arizona.
Exactly. I'm going right back to the well.
It was a smart play by Chubb. Mike Clay says they were only up by 3. Sucks for fantasy, especially the league. I have him gets bonus for long TD, but the right football play. Yeah, you're not wrong, Mike. I mean, we're looking at this totally selfishly, not anything to do with good football. Craig Sarno, I saw the disappointment in Truth's face when you said Barber isn't a thing anymore. Craig, come on. I've been trying to mask my emotions better and better. I don't like it when people can read me like that. But
exactly,
you know me better than most. Yeah, it was a little bit.
Bit the lip a little, like, oh fuck. Oh.
It's like when you think about a girl that you broke up with that you still kind of like.
Yeah, and you don't know why. You have no clue.
I don't know why. I mean, she's kind of sucks. She's not good looking. She never treated you too well, but you just kind of miss her.
Just stays on the mind for some reason.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yes, that's an interesting, because Barber is exactly someone that should never be on anyone's mind. I think Truth's the only person that ever thinks about Peyton Barber in the way he does.
You got me, Craig Sarno. Mike Clay, I was trying to tell you guys about weather pregame. Huge factor in matchups.
And I did adjust my rankings. I was like 7 or 8 lower on Cooks. I put Watson down to quarterback 10 or 11. I should have been clearly lower in hindsight. But yeah, it does. And I think I got to even move, like, more so. The wind gusts is like the key. It's one thing if it's a steady wind and you can kind of adjust to it, but the gusts are where it's, 50-mile-per-hour gusts. There's only so much you can fucking do. So yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's the same thing that's blowing through. I'm in Western Mass right now. I think that's the same thing that's blowing through here right now. It's literally that system.
There's shit falling around on our deck and balcony right now. It's crazy.
Oh, nice. All right. Sarah Riley started Anderson over Swift. I would have won.
Oh, no.
Sorry, Sarah.
I hope we didn't recommend that one. We probably did. But then the news came that Swift was starting. I know we got like really hot on Swift towards the end. I don't know what part of the broadcast you caught, but there was a solid streak where it was like, Swift starting, you're going Swift no matter what. It must not have been your part. Sorry, Sarah. We'll get him next time. But man, it looks moving forward at least that Swift is going to be a monster.
Yeah, having Swift on your team is going to help you. Rafa Gonzalez trade Chubb for Michael Thomas. At this point, man, I'd rather have Chubb.
Oh, I'd way rather have Chubb. Michael Thomas, what has anybody seen to get any type of hope?
Also, especially if Breeze is hurt. Like,
yeah. I mean,
what are you going to do?
Winston we saw Winston sustain 2 monsters last year. So it might not even end up being a bad thing, but it's been a cancer all year. Mike Thomas has been a fantasy ruiner for your season. He's just eating around the locker room, doing nothing. And there's been no sign that he's ever going to break out of it. Punching people. He's been a nightmare. He's a disaster. I don't want to welcome that, especially for a guy that just dominated. Well, you'll lose all respect from your locker room if you do that. Don't do it. No way.
Trey's up 21 points, but I'm facing Cook. Yikes.
That's a tough one. I mean, Chicago is one of the better Ds in the league, so maybe you have a shot, but not great. Gilmore is out, so that's interesting for Marquise.
Scott Brooks need Thielen and Harris to combine for less than 9 in full PPR. I'm pulling for you. That seems unlikely, dude.
That's unlikely, but I'm Scott. I'm facing the same too. I need him for less than like 30.
But
yeah, I think it's right around 30. I need him less for. So I like my chances significantly more than yours, but hopefully it's less than 9. I don't even have to sweat it. That'd be beautiful.
Scott the guy that still had a hard on from the Hopkins touchdown?
He had a great hard on. He's an Arizona fan.
Hopefully that'll sustain him through losing this game.
Yeah, you might lose your fantasy game, but hopefully the Hail Murray will carry you through.
Yeah. Mike Clay, it's not serious, but if you can scoop Mooney or Miller, it's nice insurance. But pretty sure A-Rob is a go. Thank you, Mike. You're making me feel a little better.
Absolutely. And Mooney's my definite preferred play should he miss time. I love Mooney. I think he's a really interesting stash regardless right now.
Trays, but I do have A-Rob left. All right, there you go.
A-Rob versus 21 from Cook. I'd give you the heads up right now.
Actually, I like you. A-Rob's consistent. A-Rod has a high floor.
Stud in an easy matchup tomorrow.
Danny S. Choose 3 wide receivers rest of the season. Antonio Brown, Ayuk, Godwin, Judy, Deontay Johnson, Hollywood Brown. I would say get rid of Hollywood, get rid of Judy, and that's tough, man.
That's tough.
I'll
go in order. I like Deontay the most. Like
Me too.
Steady number 1 targets. Godwin, just that offense is really good. So of the Bucs guys, I like Godwin more. And then I part of me wants to say Ayuk, but that offense could be all over the place. I think I'd rather have Ayuk though out of all these guys. I can't keep both Bucs. So if I'm cutting one, I'm going to go Deontay, Godwin, Ayuk is how I'm looking.
I'm going Deontay, Godwin, Brown.
Interesting.
TS, I benched Deontay today. Oof. Yeah, so did the guy I'm playing.
I don't know if you caught our show, TS. I would not. There was very few people I ever recommended benching Deontay to, and I feel pretty good about that.
987 Heat. Ronald Jones put me through some emotions today. Yeah,
those emotions. What was the heat like for you?
Was he sitting on your face?
Yes, exactly. Did you have a Rojo on your face?
Yes, I'm up by 16 with Baltimore's defense left versus Dalvin Cook. You think I have a chance? I mean, you could get some real points out of the Baltimore D.
The Pats offense is horrible. So, yeah, if you get nice 8 to 10, 26 for Cook, still obviously not impossible for him. But
you have a chance, though.
I would prefer – I'd bet on your side if I was a betting man, if I'll put it that way.
And
I am a betting man. So
if I were hypothetically one that would bet on professional football, I might do that.
Exactly. All righty, Wolfpack. Well, I'm a Pats fan, and that's the last question we have. So I'm going to go watch this game. But thank you so much for catching your post-game tailgate. You can find all our stuff at rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed fantasy wolves. I'll be updating the rest of the season big board tonight and tomorrow. The fantasy stock watch. My man Truth, CJ, all the guys are going to be hitting that stock watch, getting you all the latest news, these biggest stories. Certainly DeAndre Swift and some of these other big ones we talked about tonight. I'll be live tomorrow with a deeper dive into the waiver wire. We love to do a quick look here, get you some names to start writing down, look at. I'll really dig into the snaps, all that good stuff tomorrow, along with injuries as well. And then you know the deal. The waiver wire on that as well with the injuries. Then we're going to go rankings Tuesday. Me and the Truth will be back Wednesday for the preview show. Thursday night ranking show, Friday DFS. I mean, we're doing something every fucking day.
It's become a pretty packed schedule, right?
We're psychos. That's our schedule. I'm going to make a graphic and post it on the website. So that way it's like clearer when we're live. But you guys find us anyways because you're the fucking best. Yeah. This person says they benched Gibson but had Kamara and carry the team, and they still won. We told everybody to play Gibson on it. We had some pretty good calls on the show today. I'll give us a little pat on the back. Maybe a couple misses, but a good day. So Wolfpack, though, I know I just rambled. I just ranted.
Go ahead.
At Roto Street Wolf.
Indulge yourself.
This is the truth. Thank you guys so much. I'm the Wolf.
I'm the truth.
See you guys later. Best of luck. Get what you need to win in Week 10, baby. Let's
later.
Go. Oh, man.